Welcome to Spenny and the Nets, the number one Brooklyn Nets podcast available. I am your host, Spen Harris, and I am joined today by our Nets insider for his monthly appearance, senior writer for the New York Daily News, CJ Holmes.
What's going on, y'all? Good to be back.
Great to have you back. We got a lot to get into today. I want to start here. So the Nets win 2 straight on the road against Sacramento and Golden State. They are now winners of 3 out of their last 4 games, and they currently sit 8th in the Eastern Conference at 8-10. Yet a large percentage of Brooklyn Nets fans are furious because the more games the Nets win, the lower that their percentage becomes of getting a top 5 draft pick. So, CJ, my first question to you, is this anger from fans at the team for winning games justified?
Man. It's tough, man, because I feel like the whole point of tanking is to get to a point where your franchise can win games and be respectable and be, exciting and be like something that people want to be a part of. And I just don't think that you get those things from tanking. If you're naturally bad, then that's one thing. But this was never a roster that was the worst in basketball. It never was. I think, and I've been open and vocal about that since, the preseason. This has never been a bottom of the league roster, right? And I think that Jordi Fernandez is, getting the most out of these guys. And the crazy thing is, like, he hasn't even had a fully healthy roster yet this year. So when that happens, where's the team going to go from there? So, I mean, I get it. I know the Nets fans always want to cite their picks that went to Boston and, that turned into Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and what the Celtics have been able to do with that. And I get that. Those are valid points. I do believe that, a big part of roster building in the NBA, especially when it comes to competing for championships, is, getting homegrown talent in the lottery and developing them into, all-star, all-NBA caliber players, right? But at the same time, not every team is built the same way. And I don't know. I don't think that you want to disturb. I don't think Sean Marks is looking to disturb what Jordy has going on in Brooklyn right now, really. Now, granted, we're still a ways away from the trade deadline. A lot can change between now and then. But, I mean, if you're a Nets fan, you can't sit here and tell me that didn't feel good last night for your team that was supposed to win, 18 games, to go into Chase Center, a place where if you get behind by too much on the scoreboard, historically speaking, awful things happen to you. And to go in there and to overcome that kind of adversity against a pretty much fully healthy Warriors team and get out there for a win, I mean, that's incredible. That's progress. And, I hear the whole tanking thing, and, maybe it still happens, right? Maybe the injuries catch up to the Nets in ways that they can't recover from, and this stuff happens organically, right? But I think what Jordy has something special going on right now. I think the Nets fans, they need to be appreciative of it because it could be a lot worse. And another thing is, even if you are the worst team in the NBA, that does not guarantee you the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. The Atlanta Hawks, who were a playing team a year ago, got the number 1 pick. So, I mean, there's really no point of trying to bottom out because at the end of the day, it's a crapshoot. At the end of the day, it's all luck.
Yeah, you said a few interesting things there. I want to get into the Warriors game in a second. But to start, as a fan, I don't know how you can watch a basketball game that the team that you root for is participating in and get angry when they lose. Like for me, it's my instinct. Look, I understand. I want Cooper Flagg. I want the Ace Baileys. I want those top guys in the draft. But if I'm watching something for 2 hours and I've been watching this for the last 20 whatever years, it's like in my system to want my team to win. And when they do as a 13.5-point underdog on the road on the second half of a back-to-back against Golden State, without Cam Johnson, who left earlier in the game due to injury, with Cam Thomas riding the pine in the fourth quarter because Coach Fernandez wanted to protect him from himself, I don't know how you can't watch that and feel some type of joy, despite what may happen at the end of the season. That's number 1. Number 2, for me, like, I think what teams have successfully tanked and then, won a championship. Like the closest thing I can think of is the 76ers. They got close, but really never got too close. It fell apart. We have Ben Simmons now. It's been kind of a nightmarish start to the season for Joel Embiid. But you think of all the teams that have done it successfully, they've built a culture. The Warriors had a culture that began with Mark Jackson. Steve Kerr took it. He rode that momentum. They became a multiple championship winner. LeBron James in Cleveland, totally different story. But for years, that was the momentum, and they eventually make the trade for Kevin Love, and they accelerate that sort of culture, and they win a championship there. Milwaukee with Giannis, Luka's in Dallas. They haven't won yet, but these are not teams that have tanked and totally been shit. The Cavs got lucky. LeBron decided to come back to Cleveland and play with Kyrie, but if he never comes back to Cleveland and it's just the Kyrie Irving-led Cavs, that's not a good basketball team. So for me, building that culture the way that we've been building it with Jordi Fernandez, sort of writing this new chapter. The big three was a disaster. It didn't work with the twin Bridges and McHale and Cam Johnson last year. Now you're starting to see that culture be instilled into players by the coach, and there's a level of excitement to this team that we have not really seen since those Kenny Atkinson years. And that to me is more important than tanking and losing games.
And another thing is, to the point of homegrown talent, right? Shoot, looks like Dariq Whitehead's been getting better in the G League. You've been seeing his numbers lately. Look at how Noah Clowney played against Sacramento before getting hurt. 18 points off the bench, 5 trays, right? And then look how Jalen Wilson's been playing all season long. Like there's development happening right before your very eyes. These guys may not be top 5 picks, right? But they are, Jalen Wilson's a second rounder, right? And he's starting games in the NBA now, right? Noah Clowney, former first round guy, he's getting better. So when you talk about the homegrown talent, a lot of it's already on the roster, right? So, and even with that, this team has 4 first round picks next year. 4. Like, who's to say that you still can't get your guy in the lottery, right? And then you couple that with guys like Clowney and Wilson, who are already developing right under their nose, right? And then you go out and get a free agent or two. What are you working with then? So there are multiple ways to build a team. You don't have to embarrass your franchise to get that done.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's a great segue into this Warriors game last night. The Nets win 128-120. They were down as much as 15 points, I believe, in that third quarter. They come all the way back. Dennis Schroeder led the way with 31 points, 17 in the fourth, 7 assists. He was phenomenal. Cam Thomas had 23, as I mentioned earlier. He didn't play in the fourth. He kind of took himself out of the game there in the third, and Coach Fernandez did not want to put him back in and jeopardize his health. Zaire Williams, 19 points, 10 boards in the starting center role. His best performance of the year.
He was incredible last night.
He was awesome. Jalen Wilson.
Talking about like this, the development of the staff. Zaire Williamson wasn't playing this kind of basketball in Memphis.
And how old is he? He's still 24 years old, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's young kid. Jalen Wilson with 18 and 7 in the start. Did he start yesterday, Jalen Wilson?
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm.
Shake Milton with 13 off the bench, and then Trendon Watford with 8 off the bench and a huge 3 down the stretch. What were your thoughts watching this game, how they closed in the fourth quarter and essentially got the victory?
I tweeted it like about halfway through the fourth quarter when I realized oh, they're going to win this game. It's just, my goodness, from top to bottom, every player who stepped on the floor contributed last night. Like even Keon Johnson throwing down dunks, hitting timely threes. Like you said, with Trendon Watford, like hitting a timely 3 down the stretch. Dennis Schroeder putting the team on his back in clutch time and just getting bucket after bucket, right? 17 in the fourth quarter, right? And they're doing all this with Cam Thomas on the bench. It's phenomenal coaching, and I don't know what Jordi Fernandez told his team at that timeout in the third quarter with 7 minutes and 12 seconds left. But man, it's like they were shot out of the cannon from that point on. And, really the reason why they found themselves down so much in the third quarter is, Offense really wasn't an issue last night. I mean, they were coming out drilling threes from all over the court, just like they did in Sacramento. It was more of a defensive issue, right? The Warriors were really getting them off balance with like movement and then like cutting and pace and stuff like that. And we're getting easy buckets and we're just slowly picking them apart. And before they unraveled too much, Jordy reeled them back in and knitted them back together, and they fought right back into this thing. Like I said, you get down too much at Chase Center, and Stephen Curry starts knocking down them threes and getting them 4-point plays and those celebrations. Like, speaking of someone who covered that team, it can get ugly very quickly. And the fact that team was able to dig deep and brush all that off and battle all the way back and not just tie the game, but to take the lead and to pull away late. I'm not trying to like be overhyping or anything right now, but that was a wildly impressive performance by the Nets last night. And like I said, if you are a fan of this team, like, I don't see how you cannot look at that and just feel anything but proudness and pride. That was incredible. That was incredible, and it starts with Jordy Fernandez. And this is the mentality that he's been instilling in this team since day one. It hasn't been just talk. You're seeing it. You're seeing it night after night. Yeah, are they the top team in the Eastern Conference? No, but they're a young team that's still trying to learn how to win, right? And there's a lot of games where they play just as hard, right? Think about at Boston, at Cleveland. Like, right, it took the Denver Nuggets overtime to beat you at Barclays Center, right? You close out a couple of those games, and tanking wouldn't even be a possibility. They're a lot closer to being a legitimate playoff contender than they are to being one of the worst teams in the league. It's just facts.
I think that's fair to say. What's incredible about yesterday's win is, down the stretch, CJ, we were down 4 starters. The only starter in that fourth quarter was Dennis Schroeder. No Nick Claxton, no Cam Thomas, no Cam Johnson, no Dorian Finney-Smith, no Ben Simmons, who's usually our first or second guy off the bench. You still pull out the victory. And what's crazy is if you're a guy who's rooting for the tank, you couldn't have scripted it better to lose that game last night. Well, if we're going to play Keon Johnson 30 minutes and we're going to play Shake Milton 28 minutes, that's a game as a fan you would think that we lose. But Jordy Fernandez has these guys so poised, and I think there is no way in hell, and respect to Coach Vaughn and Coach Ali, they had their time here. It wasn't awful. It wasn't great. I don't see either of those two guys putting the Nets in the position that Jordy Fernandez put them in yesterday in that fourth quarter.
Like a coaching masterclass. It's like the best way I can describe it. Like you just said, down multiple starters, shorthanded, thin, and you lose Cam Johnson like in the game. You lose Cam Thomas down the stretch, and you still win that game. I mean, a coaching masterclass. And if Jordy keeps this up, there's going to be some postseason recognition. I'll leave it at that.
And if he doesn't, if you're a Nets fan, losses aren't the worst thing in the world. We're gonna lose games, right? This team is not going to be first or second in the East. And what you were talking about before, developing young talent, we're going to get rid of some of our veteran guys. There are going to be teams in the West that want to overpay or pay appropriately for a Cam Johnson, for a Dennis Schroeder, for a Dorian Finney-Smith. So we are going to see more of Noah Clowney. We are going to see more of Jalen Wilson, Dariq Whitehead. These guys are going to get their minutes, especially in that second half of the season.
Yeah, it's coming.
So we got 2 more games to cover. I want to circle all the way back to the loss on Friday night against the 76ers, 113 Philly, 98 Brooklyn. Cam Johnson kind of continued his campaign of just totally rewriting his narrative this year compared to last year. 37 for Brooklyn. Really the only bright spot in this game for the Nets was Cam Johnson. Everyone else did not play well. 14 turnovers combined for Cam Thomas and Dennis Schroeder. They each had 7 apiece, 19 turnovers for the team in total. Philly out-rebounded the Nets 40-34. And then at the end of the day, too much Jared McCain. He finished with 30. Too much Tyrese Maxey. He finished with 26. That's kind of the story down the stretch.
Yeah, they kind of just let go of the rope in that game. But again, that's a game where they played hard through 3 quarters, and although they weren't playing their best basketball, they were right there. The biggest thing about that Philly game was, other than Cam Johnson, no one else really got it going offensively. And when Cam was kind of limited in that fourth quarter, turnovers began to pile up. Maxey and McCann started running in transition and knocking down threes and getting to the rim. And they say, they kind of just let go of the rope and the game got away from them a little bit. But obviously they learned from that. They turned around and have turned around and won 2 straight. After giving up all those points in the fourth quarter on Friday, they gave up only 15 points in the fourth quarter against the Sacramento Kings, who have a point guard in De'Aaron Fox that's been on an absolute tear in recent games. So that's the thing. This team seems to be so good at learning from their mistakes, right? And while those mistakes may pop up, somewhere else in later games, later in the year, in terms of immediate, I'm going to apply this to the next game. They're very, very good at that.
I'll give you a perfect example of what you just said. Cam Thomas, 7 turnovers in that Philly game, 2 turnovers in the Kings and the Warriors game combined.
Boom.
And you saw how, in that Warriors game, they were double teaming him to start. He was making the right read almost every single possession. You love to see that growth from Cam Thomas. That's what.
It's like these guys have Batman level preparation under Jordy Fernandez. It's insane. And as much credit as we're giving him right now, as we're giving Fernandez right now, it's not enough. It's not enough. What he's doing with this roster, it is not enough. This is pretty crazy.
I know Knicks fans love Tibbs over there in New York. I don't think he can do what Jordy Fernandez is doing right now. I'm not sure there's another coach in the league that can do it.
Tibbs been around the block a little while, but when it comes to rookie seasons, Fernandez, he's pretty hot for a rookie head coach right now.
Before we move on to the Kings game, I did just want to point out I'm a huge fan of Jared McCain's game, and I love his TikToks. He is arguably one of my favorite players in the league this season. Just everything I love that he's unforgivably himself off the court, but on the court, he's just straight business.
Yeah, he's a great player. It's still a little frustrating from a standpoint of imagine watching this dude dance around on TikTok, that big old smile and all that, and he just comes on the court and just cooks you with a smile on his face. That has to be frustrating for a lot of guys in the league, but that's his superpower. Getting under guys' skin is his superpower, and he takes advantage of it. And it looks like the Sixers got another hell of a backcourt player in McCain. I think he's another guy who's exceeded expectations this year in terms of what people thought that he would be in year one.
Yeah, interesting to see what his ceiling is. I've seen people shout out the name Steph Curry. I don't even want to go close to that yet. He's a rookie. He's having a nice stretch. Let's see what he does later in the year and in his sophomore season. But overall, good draft pick for the Sixers. Kind of the only thing that's gone right for them this year. All right, I wanted to move on to this Kings game. So this was the start of the Western Conference road trip for the Nets. We had the Kings, the Warriors, and then we play Phoenix on Thursday night. 108-103. De'Aaron Fox was cooking in this game. He finished with 31, 10 of 16 from the field. But overall, the Nets, Cam Thomas rebounded from a crappy performance in Philadelphia, 34 points, 6 assists for Cam Thomas, 1 turnover, like I said. Cam Johnson had 16. You had Noah Clowney come in with 18 off the bench. He hit the 5 threes, as you mentioned earlier. And then Shake Milton, who's been a nice surprise for the Nets, 10 points in 21 minutes off the bench. Those were the only 4 Nets in double figures, but they made it work, and they beat a really solid Sacramento Kings team on the road.
Yeah, and they're making a whole lot of threes. And when you're shooting the 3 ball the way they've been shooting the last 2 games, it's hard to lose when you're shooting the ball that well. So had to feel good for Jordy to go back into Sacramento. He started as that team's associate head coach under Mike Brown. And Mike Brown's relationship goes back to 2009, maybe a little earlier. But I had to feel good that that's probably a game that Jordy had circled on his calendar since the NBA released their schedules back in August. And for him to go in there and have a good showing for his team to play well against his mentor and close friend, someone he considers, family. That had to feel good. And, you heard Cam Thomas kind of talking about after the game that they really wanted to get that one for Jordy. So, good showing out in Sacramento. And, it clearly, even though they were down more players than they were in that game, it clearly carried over in the last night.
What is with this Nets team beating the crap out of everybody in the West? The only Western Conference team to beat them was the Nuggets, and it took overtime. They are 5-1 against Western Conference teams early on this year.
Man, just imagine they could figure out the East, right?
Man. Impressive 2-game stretch for the Nets. So I wanted to talk injury report, right? A lot of guys are hurting. Hoping you can give me some updates on a few of these guys. So let's go through it. I got 5 names listed, and we will start with Cam Johnson. What are you hearing after he left the game with what they called was an ankle injury yesterday?
Yeah. Ankle sprain. I think it was his right ankle, I want to say. But I believe Angrier was talking to reporters out in San Francisco last night. He said it was too early to tell. We should be having an injury update here in the next hour and a half or so. We should get the next injury update, but right now it's too early to tell. And Cam, you could tell he tried to play through it last night, still out there moving gingerly. Luckily, they didn't need him anyway when it was all said and done. But I think that given how well he's been playing, that's the guy that they're not going to be in any hurry to rush back. You want to make sure that guy is as healthy as possible, especially if the goal is to trade him at some point. You want to make sure his value stays as high as it possibly can. So if that ankle injury is even a little concerning, and I fully expect him to not play against Phoenix tomorrow night, and that's tough because that's a homecoming for him.
Ironically, the one team that could probably use him is the Warriors. I feel like he would fit seamlessly there.
Yeah, I agree. And I know Warriors fans, specifically, they've been kind of eyeing Mr. Johnson for a while now. When I posted my story on Friday, a lot of Warriors fans, a lot of them still follow me. A lot of Warriors fans were liking it and retweeting it, and saying, "Like, come on, Mike Dunleavy, like, get it done." So, it didn't look like CJ was doing all too well when he was trying to play through that yesterday. So I would not be surprised at all if they hold him out tomorrow. Dorian Finney-Smith was definitely not going to play yesterday. We'll see if he can go. Ben Simmons should be back on the court. He just didn't play last night because he's still not playing in back-to-backs. And I guess we got to see what's going on with Nick Claxton, right? Because that was kind of like a random injury added to the report last minute. But we'll kind of see how that goes too, but all will be revealed here in the next hour or so.
The only 2 other names, and I'm sure we'll get the next hour, were Cam Thomas and Noah Clowney. Anything on those 2 guys? I know Noah Clowney got hurt in the Sacramento game.
Yeah. I did see in the press conference that Noah Clowney did have an MRI, and they're still awaiting the results of that. Those results were not shared after the game last night. So again, these are all things that once the team gets to Phoenix and gets settled, I do think a lot of these questions will be answered in the next couple injury reports that are going to come out today.
Got it. Okay. Next 2 games for the Nets, like you mentioned, they play the Suns at 9 p.m. tomorrow night. That's in Phoenix, I would assume?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Finish out the West, I guess this mini Western Conference road trip. And then they have the Magic on Friday at home in Brooklyn. That'll be their 3rd NBA Cup game. CJ, what are our predictions for the next 2 games? They kind of lose one of these.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, you got to understand, like last year when they went on these West road trips, like they're getting swept. You know what I'm saying? So to even be 2-1 on this trip, it could be 3-0 if you close against Philly. It could be 3-0. I think tomorrow's game, is Kevin Durant going to play? Is Bradley Beal going to play? I think that'll go a long way with me determining my prediction. If they do play, I do think that's tough, especially if you don't have guys like Cam Johnson and Noah Clowney out there to kind of provide some like size and length against those guys. So I'm going to say that I'm going to say they drop their game against Phoenix tomorrow night, and I think they come back home. Kind of looking for some revenge against, Orlando was one of the only teams to embarrass them this year. I wouldn't say embarrass them, but, the kind of pull away from them a little more this year. And I think they're going to be looking to exact some revenge at home. So I do think they get that game done on Friday. I do believe that Paulo Banchero is still out, so they can get healthier ahead of that game. And, as hard as they've been playing, that should be a game that's completely winnable. And that's no knock on Orlando. They've been playing great basketball in spite of Banchero being out. But that should be a game that the Nets should get at home, especially coming in with so much momentum.
Yeah, I was going to pick the exact opposite way, but like you said, Phoenix is tough if we don't see KD and Beal. I still think Phoenix beats us in Phoenix, and then Orlando with no Banchero. I'll say the Nets take that game. I'll go 1-on-1 with you. I think it's a pretty fair prediction. All right, we're going to close it out. CJ, I want to hear two things from you, Thanksgiving related. One thing you are thankful for, and number two, your favorite Thanksgiving dish.
Oh, man. I'm just thankful for my family, my wife, my mom. She's about to move to Australia soon. So this is probably going to be our last Thanksgiving together for a little while. Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I'm just thankful for, all the people in my life who check in on me and make sure I'm okay and support me and hold me up. I'm thankful for my bosses. For keeping me employed and allowing me to do what I love every day. I'm thankful for you, Spen, for allowing me to come on and talk Nets and have some fun every once in a while. And I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful for all the people who continue to tap in with me and to see value in me and to help build me up instead of breaking me down. Y'all are really MVPs, as Kevin Durant would say.
I like that. That was a genuine answer. What is your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Oh man, it has to be. It's the meats for me, man. It's the turkeys with the gravy. It's the ham. It's the honey ham. I like taking the sweet potatoes, my mom's mac and cheese, and mixing it together into a sweet potato mac and cheese casserole kind of situation. So. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, if not the most favorite. I love to eat, even though my wife probably thinks I should eat a little less. But I love to eat, and I can't wait to get around the table with some friends and family on Thursday night and chow down, man.
White or dark meat kind of guy?
I don't discriminate for real, but gun to my head, I'll probably go with white meat.
I mean, my thing is this: dark meat's a little bit more tender, but if there's gravy on it, who the hell cares, right? It's still going in the same place. Yeah, all right, that's good. My two answers: I'm thankful for the Nets. I'm thankful for having a team to cover, and that for me, sports is great. It's just one of my favorite things to watch, to talk about, and so thankful for the Nets. My favorite Thanksgiving dish, whenever my family cooks the turkey, they cook it with some bacon pieces on top, so the bacon fat melts into the turkey. I love when my father takes that piece of bacon off the cooked turkey and he gives it to me. It's literally like the best bacon you could possibly eat when it gets cooked on the turkey in the oven. Just incredible. Yeah, that's about it. All right. Well, I wanted to thank everyone for tuning in with us. If you do not already follow CJ on Twitter, please check him out at Holmescribe. That's at HOLMESSCRIBE, Holmescribe. Catch his articles on the nydailynews.com. CJ, once again, thank you for coming on. And to all our listeners out there, have an incredible Thanksgiving and go Nets.